Town was the scene for the start of the 2007 ABSA Off-Road Championship series of 8 races, the 6th year that the banking giant has been supporting what it calls the premier off-road racing formula in South Africa. The support that Cape Town gave their expo at the V&A proved it, as thousands flocked to rub shoulders with the drivers and pit crews while checking out the latest developments and improvements to the steeds for the hard racing that lay ahead. In the Nissan camp, they know it's going to be hard. That's why Glenn Hall and his team prepares for every eventuality. With Hannes Grobler at the wheel and navigator Francois Jordan calling, they stormed to victory in Darling in 2006 and were hoping for more of the same.
Very much. I'm very glad that SP class is growing so much, because there's a lot more competition, and that's what motorsport is about, you know. And we don't need to drive against each other in the same team. We obviously do that, but it's nice to have other teams that you can compete in, and the more the merrier.
In the other camps like Ford, there was a different approach, cautious but cagey. Listen to how Neil Woolridge put it.
I think we'll take it easy. When I say take it easy, I don't think any racing driver should say we'll take it easy, but I think it's important to bank some points, especially with the uncertainty of the cars. We're not 100% sure about the car, so I think it's going to be important to finish this first one. If we pick up some good points along the way, well, then that's a bonus. And once we get back to the workshop and we go through all the cars again and make sure everything's right, then we can really push.
The defending manufacturers champions Toyota, who wrested the crown from Nissan last year, were turned out in a new livery, and they were ready to unleash a new car and a whole host of new plans on the opposition.
Absolutely, we've got some great plans in the pipeline. Toyota put in a lot of effort in building in a new vehicle. Unfortunately, with all the developments that we've got in the vehicle, you know, we weren't able to finish the vehicle for the first event, so we're going to be using our old vehicle with slightly changed front suspension. But I think the new vehicle is going to be a massive step forward. So yeah, we're looking forward to the Sugar Belt. I think it's going to be quite an interesting event for us.
Meanwhile, the stalwart Henry Zamatin was hoping for a green light for the prologue after scrutineering, but all he got was a puzzling yellow light, no show.
The little yellow light, it's been on since the car was built from day one, and it's never been off. I mean, your regulations state that when your ignition's on, the light must be on. So in all these years, the light's been on, and it's never given a minute's trouble until we put it through scrutineering, and suddenly there's no light. I said, what do you mean there's no light? Says, the light's off. So it looks like there's a little hot connection on the globe.
That certainly was a case of many hands make light work. At least the Rhobi camp hoped so. For Thomas Rundle, there were no problems.
The car's 100%. I mean, the car's fully prepared. We find it's just we you know, it's the first event of the year, so we're just going to take it easy and make sure we get to the finish of the event. That's our number one goal for the Nissan Dealer 400 2007.
A man with a lot on his mind. In the motorite enclosure, the special vehicle class favourites were carrying the mantle, number 1.
Yeah, look, it's a bit of pressure. I mean, coming to the first race, especially after winning the championship last year, and yeah, to have the number 1 plate, I mean, it's fantastic. We had a great year last year, but I think I'm going to go with the same strategy as last year. You know, obviously to finish each race, and Darling has never been my race. I've never finished it in 3 years. I've always had some mechanical problem, and it's a gremlin that I've got to get over first. In other words, finishing Darling, and that's what I've come here to do. Obviously, we're going to push it. There's but serious competition at the moment. There's new bats being built left, right, and centre. I think there's almost 10 new Sandmasters in it. There's the Buckies. You know, Woolridge has entered a few more Fords, and Nissan have got a few more, and Toyota. So, sure, it's going to be for off-road racing. It's just fantastic. I mean, you can imagine with this amount of competition out there, and yeah, the first race is always a little bit nervous, but you know, I've got the number 1 on the car, and that will stay with me for the year, whatever happens. And yeah, I'm just going to take one step at a time.
Cox on a mission, a frightening thought. Another off-road racing veteran is Richard Schilling, who lined up his Plastotech race go again in Class S.
I'm going to get S1 back on the side of the car again. Nick beat us last year, he deserved it. Even though my navigator won the championship, I came second as a driver. Done a bit of work on the car, really to try and make it more reliable. Changed the gearbox, have a new gearbox in the car, stripped the car, rebuilt it completely, but really looking forward to it. We really started having fun. You know, we come to these races for fun and to win, and we had a good night last night, so we're ready for today.
For Roacon's David White, it's been a bit lonely. He's campaigned in a single-seater, but in 2007 he's got a co-driver, his brother Gary.
Look, it's completely different, especially from the single-seater to from Class B to Class A. It's got a lot more power, the bat. It's just something awesome. With a single-seater, the Class B car, you just have to keep up momentum. With this thing, you can just throw it and it goes. I mean, it's just awesome. The power is just awesome. I think that's the way to go to do for off-road racing is Class A. To go into Class B, learn your things there and go to Class A. I really think that's the way to go.
But when all the talking was done, it was off on the 16-kilometer prologue to determine the starting order for the 400 k's worth of racing the next day. And who better to lead it off than Motorite's Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman. The testing and winding 2-lap 16-kilometer time trial was held at a quad bike racing park aptly named Dirt and Dust just outside Durbanville, and it was a true test for each one of the 64 entries. The men who had the fastest early intermediate times were Gary Bertolt and Henry Kirstein, who had changed their Atlas Copco's canary yellow livery to a turquoise blue, inserted a new gearbox, but the rest stayed exactly the same. They were still as quick as the proverbial racing snake. But the Western Cape race, which is held in Darling on the West Coast, is always a true test, not only for the fact that it's the first of the season, but because somehow it always ends up being dry as a bone and dusty as the moon's surface. However, the Motorite lads let it all hang out. The prologue affords you a relatively dust-free ride if you clock a time fast enough not to get left behind slower traffic. Cox and co-driver Henny ter Steger were determined. Their back 3.5 litre sounded in fine voice. The second Atlas Copco, that of father and son combination Nick and Ryan Harper, was also letting some of the other big-name teams sit up and take note. They eventually took 7th fastest time overall, just 67 seconds off the pace. Naim Mosaji and Rehan Bodhana in the all-orange TTR Racing Jimco Chevy 5.7 litre Monster were impressive too. While the total porter of Shamir Varayawa behind the wheel and Nav Siegfried Rousseau were good enough to nab a top 10 overall and 6th in Class A in a time of 17 minutes and 36 seconds. In the B class, it was no surprise. The newcomers of 2006 father and son Jan and Hendrik Kraai in their Keymax property backed with its Nissan 2-litre engine just picked up where they left off. But just 3 seconds behind them, it was Johan and Etienne Besaidnout in the Adenko Bat who kept the Kraais honest. With Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith in their JRE CLE Nissan just a further 18 seconds further back, Class B was humming. In Class S, it was much of the same as Glenn Gibson and Mark Whitehurst piloted their red Absolute Ace Code to the fastest timing over the 2 laps in 18:58. But just 31 ticks of the watch later, it was Nick Gosler and Richard Carolyn in the Kopenhagen Hotel Raceco Porsche 3.6 which steamed by. Class S was obviously an abbreviation for Class Sweat. These guys were working it hard. And no, this was not part of the official Dirt and Dust route. That was Richard Schilling and Chris Davies testing the revving capabilities of the Plastotech Raceco. There was help to put it back on its paws, and talking paws, Nazim Motti and Feroz Duda got their charge upside down or downside up before some roadside assistance came to their aid. In the SP class, there was the usual serious scrap, no mercy asked or given, and Hannes Grobler and Francois Jordan poured everything into it to take the top spot for the production vehicles. The proudly South African Nissan Navara was going like a Boeing. For teammates Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford, a good start was imperative, and that's what they got. They were pushing hard. And Chris Birkin had a trying season together last year and were keen to take control this time round. The Castrol Toyota team would have been pleased as they were just 8 seconds off the pace. Reigning Class E champions Manfred Schroeder and Ward Huxtable made the step up to the SP class in their Absolute Barlow World Ford Ranger, and Schroeder's ultra-smooth driving style translated into a 4th fastest class time. Berthold and his navigator Robin Houghton were coming on well towards the end of last season, and in their Castrol Toyota Hilux 4-litre they were 5th in class and 12th overall, an encouraging start to 07. Leaving a struggling Cliff and Louis Weichelt in their wake. Reigning SP class champions Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer were experiencing clutch problems which would hamper them severely, but took 6th in class. Their teammates 2006 Darling winner Brandon Harkis and Jean Moore were right on their exhaust pipe, only 6 seconds back. Harkis upgraded from a special vehicle to the relative comfort and visibility of a production car and obviously revelled in it. While Mark Corbett and Rudy Balza in the Century Property Development's Nissan Navara were fast enough to clock the 8th quickest time in class. Getting airborne on the quad bike track was Norway's Ivar Tollefsen and his co-driver Quinn Evans, who were still getting used to their Nissan Navara 4-litre and the South African conditions. In Class E, Roost Racing's newcomers Hein Moorman and Cecil Fincham in a Toyota Hilux set the pace in 20 minutes and 27 seconds. With Yuri and Andre Duplessis in the BB Auto Racing Nissan Hardbody leading the way in Class D. But their rearview mirror was full of brothers Henry and Maurice Matten in the Ryobi Nissan, with the yellow light intact this time, just 3 seconds behind. With the White Ray Sonics Nissan of Kutsia Labuskaghni and Johan Gerber a further 35 seconds behind, Class D was also a hotbed of speed and some tough competition. Second in Class E, it was another very impressive pairing, Jannie Visser and Joks Leroux in a Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7. With husband and wife team George and Sharon Barkhuizen still high after a maiden win in 06 in Class E in their Rurikon Toyota. But there were one or two mishaps along the way. Herman de Villiers and Willie Prinsloo proving that they had no wheel nuts left. Front left, we mean. But those who did hold on to their wheels were Grobler and Jordan, who would be dust-free at the front of the production car list, just 4 seconds ahead of Voss and his navigator Ralph Pitchford. And in the special vehicle category, it was Berthold and Kirstein who held a 21-second sway over the Motorrad pairing, with yet another black and silver team Cox and Tersteege in third. Just 94 seconds covered the top 8. It was clear that the special vehicle class would be a fight to the very end.
Cars performed fantastically. Henry was doing a good job as a navigator. Quite a tight circuit, so I think it was difficult to see how the car would perform, but overall I think we're either first or second tomorrow, so we're on top of it and very happy with the decision of the new gearbox.
The first section we didn't set a blistering pace. Our starter motor gave up on us. We didn't want to let the car switch off, otherwise we wouldn't be able to start it. So we took it a bit easy, and in the second lap we had it all dialed in, and I'm confident we got good times. And but you know, it's only 16 Ks, and tomorrow is a long day, so we'll see tomorrow.
And before that tomorrow arrived, crews had to tweak clutches, set gearbox ratios and clear dust from the minutest and most impossible places. After all, 400 kilometers is a very long way to go, especially in the dry, dusty heat of the Western Cape. The ABSA Off-Road Championship continues. Vehicle